How did criminals make millions on a hidden corner of the internet? Yes, this is the story of Silk Road, the most illegal marketplace in the world. It wasn't Amazon, it wasn't eBay. It lived in the shadows of the dark web, where bitcoins flowed like rivers, drugs were shipped worldwide, and one man believed he was building a utopia, while authorities saw him as a dangerous criminal. But here's the shocking truth. Most videos about Silk Road get it wrong. No, you couldn't hire hitmen. No, it wasn't a market for body parts. And no, Ross Ulbricht wasn't some untouchable tech genius or freedom-fighting saint. So what was he really? A visionary? A criminal? Or just a young man in way over his head? I've studied this case inside and out, and in this video, you'll get the most trustworthy, nuanced account of Silk Road on YouTube. Here's what we'll cover. The origin story of Ross Ulbricht. The truth versus myths about Silk Road. How Silk Road made criminals millions, and how the FBI closed in. And finally, the human cost, the lives changed, and the lessons no one talks about. Stick with me. By the end, you'll see Silk Road in a way you never have before. The birth of a digital utopia. Ross Ulbricht wasn't some hardened criminal. He was a college kid from Texas, smart, curious, and idealistic. He studied physics, loved philosophy, and read libertarian thinkers who believed the government should stay out of people's lives. His dream? To create a world where people could trade freely without interference. And when Bitcoin appeared, an untraceable digital currency, Ross saw his opportunity. He envisioned Silk Road as a marketplace beyond government control, anonymous, decentralized, untouchable. But let's be clear, Ross didn't start by selling drugs. In fact, his early idea was much smaller. Digital books, items that didn't attract attention. But he quickly realized that what people really wanted in an anonymous marketplace was drugs. So Silk Road pivoted. And in a strange way, Ross convinced himself it was moral. Why? Because he believed prohibition caused more harm than the drugs themselves. On Silk Road, sellers were rated, products were reviewed, and transactions were safe compared to street corners. But here's the problem. Ross was building a utopia in his mind, and a criminal empire in reality. The marketplace of myths. When Silk Road exploded in popularity, the myths exploded with it. Newspapers called it an online black market for murder for hire, guns, even human organs. But here's the truth. Most of those claims were false or wildly exaggerated. What Silk Road actually sold, overwhelmingly, was drugs, cannabis, psychedelics, stimulants, some prescription pills, but no hitmen, no organ trafficking. Yes, there were a handful of fake listings for weapons or darker services, but they were scams. They never delivered. This is where the hero worship began. To some, Ross was a digital Robin Hood, a man challenging corrupt systems, exposing the failures of the war on drugs. But to others, he was no hero at all, just another dealer hiding behind philosophy. And here's the part people forget. Silk Road didn't exist in a vacuum. Real people used those drugs. Real overdoses happened. Real families suffered. So when we strip away the myths, what's left is more complex. A marketplace that wasn't as dark as tabloids claimed, but also wasn't as noble as fans believe. Millions made, millions lost. By 2012, Silk Road was booming. Thousands of listings, hundreds of thousands of users. Estimates suggest $1.2 billion worth of transactions happened on Silk Road. Sellers made millions. Buyers felt untouchable. And Ross? He was sitting at the top as Dread Pirate Roberts, the anonymous administrator. He collected commissions on every sale, making millions himself. But success came with danger. Hackers targeted the site. Rival vendors tried to extort Ross. Law enforcement was quietly circling. And this is where the story gets dark. Ross allegedly discussed violence to protect Silk Road. There are chat logs suggesting he considered hiring hits on people who threatened the platform. Some argue they were bluffs. Some say they were setups by corrupt agents. But what's clear is, Ross was cracking under pressure. Meanwhile, the FBI had cracked something else. Bitcoin transactions weren't as anonymous as people believed. Investigators traced mistakes vendors made, followed shipments, and slowly built a case. Finally, in 2013, they moved. Ross was arrested in a public library in San Francisco, laptop open, logged in as the mastermind of Silk Road. The marketplace collapsed overnight. Millions vanished. And the myth of Silk Road, the invincible dark web empire, was over. The human story. Here's where we need to pause. Because this story isn't just about bitcoins and FBI raids, it's about people. The users who thought they were safe until their shipments led to arrests. The families who lost children to overdoses fueled by easy access. The agents, some who stayed honest, some who stole Bitcoin themselves during the investigation. And of course, Ross Ulbricht, a young man who wanted to change the world but is now serving 2 life sentences without parole. Was that justice, or was it an example meant to scare others? Even today, Ross's case sparks debate. Some see him as a martyr for freedom. Others see him as a reckless criminal who played with lives. The truth, as always, is somewhere in between. Lessons of Silk Road. So what can we take from the story of Silk Road? 1. Technology is neutral. Humans are not. Bitcoin, Tor, encryption. These tools can liberate, but they can also corrupt. 2. Utopias are fragile. Ross thought he was building a free market paradise. In reality, it became a marketplace of addiction and profit. 3. Myths distort reality. Whether you see Silk Road as pure evil or pure heroism, the truth is far more human, messy, and tragic. Silk Road made criminals millions, but it also destroyed lives, including the man who built it. And maybe that's the real warning. In chasing freedom at any cost, you might end up building your own prison. If this story gave you something to think about, make sure to hit the like button. It really helps us share more stories like this. And if you're new here, subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden side of money, power, and the human choices that shape them. Let me know in the comments. Was Ross Ulbricht a visionary or a criminal? I'd love to hear your thoughts.